Hello everyone, welcome to EPG Pathshala. Today we are going to do module 9 and that is reading skill. After learning about this unit, you will be able to have a clear understanding of the nature of reading, understand the significance of reading skill. You will be able to specify the different levels of reading comprehension, recognize the various skills involved in reading, distinguish between skimming and scanning, describe the different types of reading and also identify various strategies to improve reading skill. So, we move ahead with these objectives in mind. Reading is a very essential activity in our life. It is done with a purpose. It is said, reading maketh man. Reading is very essential. The purpose behind it is selected by us because either we do it to get information or to seek pleasure. There are various types of texts that we read. It may be an expository text, it may be a narrative text, it may be, a different type, literary or non-literary texts. It may be texts which give you some information or how to make a recipe, how to go about carrying out a particular task. There are so many different types of texts that you read every day on a regular basis. But the purpose and differs with the type of text that you read. Now, that is why it is called a selective activity. Every text contains words, sentences, paragraphs and a whole lot of content. Depending upon this text, the content varies, the speed varies and the type of text also varies. We need to decide what type of text we need to read at what time and for what. For reading, we require different types of competencies. One of them is the linguistic competence, the discourse competence, the socio-linguistic competence and the strategic competence. All these competencies we will be looking into detail further one after the other. Now, before we see what are these various competencies, let us see the significance of reading. Why do we exactly need to learn reading properly and accurately? Learning to read is important not only for language learning as for pronunciation or knowing grammatical structures, but for a variety of other reasons. We need to learn reading to be able to get information for some purpose or to get to know about some topic, the answer to a question or the solution to a problem. To learn how to perform a task in our work or our daily life, for example, to know how an appliance works or how to cook a new recipe. To keep in touch with friends through letters or understand official correspondence. To know when or where something will take place or what is available for consulting timetables, programs, announcements, notices, menus or advertisements. To know what has happened or what has happened from newspapers, magazines and reports. To gain enjoyment or excitement by reading stories, novels, poems, songs or scripts, to act or play or in a play. To be able to perform tasks on our own, such as playing a new game, solving a puzzle, etc. Now, there are various techniques of reading. The first one is skimming. It is an activity in which the reader's eyes run over a text quickly to get a general idea or gist of it. Now, why and how of skimming? To note what is included, examine the preface, table of contents and section headings in the chapters. To decide if it is easy enough or worth reading, sample various pages in a storybook or novel. To get the author's view, sample the introduction, topic sentences of paragraphs, conclusion of a controversial article. To get the framework of the topic, examine introduction, the main points, section headings, illustration or maps, conclusion of chapters. To decide whether to read, examine headlines, illustration, topic sentences and introductory paragraphs of newspaper articles. Now, what are the advantages of skimming? They are, it improves average reading speed, it saves time and labor, there is more output in less time, it gives plenty of reference information and has a fund of knowledge. It keeps one abreast of new developments. It serves as a consolidated technique for revision at the time of examination. Of course, it does have certain disadvantages too. It does not give the reader a full comprehension of the content, as chunks of material are left in between. All reading material is not very well organized, so meaningful skimming is not possible. The second technique of reading is scanning. Scanning refers to reading a book or text for specific information. Now, how to scan? Decide in mind what you want to search for. Glance rapidly down the page or column, expecting the information to stand out. Chapter titles, headings of chapter divisions, side headings, italic section headings, etc. will function as signposts. Move the eyes across the pages briskly so that what is sought for strikes the eyes. Note down or highlight the required specific information, reading the passage, keeping in mind the pre-reading questions, and then focus on specific information. Now, what are the advantages of scanning? Scanning allows the reader to efficiently gather information which may be scattered throughout a long piece of writing. It encourages the reader to research in a purposeful way. It helps to avoid distractions. But scanning can be monotonous. The technique is not suited for long periods of study, as it is easy to lose concentration. Although scanning is a good way to quickly gather facts, it is not always thorough and a key fact may be overlooked. The context in which a fact appears may affect its meaning. Without reading the surrounding text, it is easy to misinterpret a fact's true significance. Now, there are various types of reading. Loud reading enables students to read with correct pronunciation of vowel and consonant sounds, articulation, accentuation, fluency and intonation. To enable students to read with expression, to rest students' knowledge of speaking words, phrases and sentences, to give practice, to understand the meaning, and to prepare pupils for effective silent English. Loud reading helps to learn the proper method of reading. It helps to develop the skill of speech and giving lectures. Loud reading also, mistakes related to pronunciation can be corrected. It trains various sensory organs such as eyes, ears, mouth, etc. Students learn by imitation, which is a natural method of reading. Now, of course, there are certain demerits of loud reading too. Loud reading is not a source of pleasure. It does not help in presenting the meaning, since symbol is translated straight in sound. If the student becomes habitual, he cannot become an extensive reader. All students do not pay heed while somebody else is reading. Only a few who are reading are benefited, and it's of course loud reading is not allowed in public places. There are certain precautions to be taken in loud English reading. Reading should be done only after the model reading by the teacher. Passage should be written within comprehension power of the students. It should not promote word by word reading. Few questions should be asked to make sure it is understood. Mistakes have to be checked by the teacher. Speed should not be emphasized in the beginning. The posture of reading also has to be checked. Weak students should be given special attention, and pronunciation drill is essential. The second type of reading is silent reading. Silent reading is the main aim of learning English. It is more important than loud reading. After 5 to 6 years of language learning, all the years are spent in silent reading, since silent reading enables the students to read without making sounds and moving lips, so that they may not disturb others. To enable students to read with ease, speed and fluency, silent reading is required. It also helps to make students read with comprehension, to get students' vocabulary expanded. According to Ryburn, the aim of silent reading is pleasure and profit, to be able to read for interest and to get information. There are certain precautions that we need to take while doing silent reading. Only those passages should be read which can be understood and appreciated by the students. Paragraphs should not be too long. Special attention to be paid to the weak students. Teacher must ask comprehension questions after silent reading. The duration of silent reading should differ according to the nature of the matter and standard of the class. Pupils are not expected to move their fingers under the line of reading. Whispering, murmuring or lip movement should be strictly prohibited. The teacher has to train the pupils in reducing the number of pauses or increasing the number of words recognized in a single pause. However, silent reading is not advantageous for beginners. It does not teach pronunciation. Checking whether students are actually reading becomes difficult. Mistakes remain unchecked. It also becomes uninteresting at times if the topic is boring. However, the help of the teacher cannot be sought. The next type of reading is intensive reading. Intensive reading means a minute and detailed study of the prescribed prose text. It concentrates upon language, information and the grasping of the sense. It is also called detailed study. It concentrates upon assimilation of language, which consists of study of words, phrases and sentence structures. Study of sentence structure including grammar, word order and syntax. Grasping of the sense and getting information. Therefore, intensive reading not only helps the students to understand, speak and write English correctly, but also improves to extend their knowledge and have a good command over English. It gives them practice in correct pronunciation, intonation, expression and modulation of voice. It gives them opportunity to use language without fear and to develop in them the habit of thinking in the language. It helps to create and foster in them a taste for the study of language and to enrich their vocabulary. According to Jesperson, to keep them occupied with the text repeatedly in such a way that they do not lose sight of the meaning, so that thus become so familiar with it at last that they know it almost or entirely by heart without having been directly required to commit it to memory. However, with every type of reading, this also has its advantages and disadvantages. Its advantages are, it increases active vocabulary, it helps in learning grammar, it explains the meaning and improves the power of expression. Its limitations are, there is no joy and interest to the pupil because there is such a lot of detailed study that the child loses interest in reading. There is limited utility in the formation of working vocabulary. It kills the pupil's appreciation of literature. Now that we finished with intensive reading, let us have a look at what is extensive reading. Extensive reading is also called rapid reading or independent silent reading. It means to read silently, to read quickly, to understand the subject matter and meaning as efficiently as possible, to read without the help of the teacher, to read to pass words into passive vocabulary. According to Thompson and Wyatt, extensive reading is the cultivation of a taste for reading, and it seeks by encouraging the habit of visualizing what is read to make reading a form of visual instruction. There are prerequisite conditions for extensive reading. The pupil must have acquired a vocabulary of at least 500 words. This means that rapid reading should be started at the beginning of the middle stage, not before that. They must have formed the habit of reading and study. They must have developed the ability to recognize words faster than to pronounce them. There are certain steps that have to be followed in extensive reading. First, there has to be an introductory talk by the teacher, giving hints as to the points of the story and how to deal with specific language difficulties. Then, it is followed by silent reading by the pupils, questions by the teacher and a short recapitulation. The advantages of extensive reading are it helps in assimilation of ideas, it helps the whole class to be busy and active, it increases their vocabulary, it has high transfer of learning value since it prepares students for library reading, it paves the path for individual method of study and self-education. Now, when we speak about intensive and extensive reading, so how do they differ? It differs in such ways as follows. Extensive reading concentrates upon the subject matter, whereas intensive reading concentrates upon the language. Extensive reading is only to grasp the meaning of what is read, whereas intensive reading makes a careful and minute scrutiny of what is read. Words, phrases and expressions are not studied in detail in extensive reading, whereas words, phrases and expressions are studied in detail in intensive reading. In extensive reading, new words and phrases occurring in the book pass into the pupil's passive vocabulary. This does not happen in intensive reading. New words and phrases occurring in the book pass into the pupil's active vocabulary. The pupils should only be able to understand and not use all the common words, phrases and expressions in the book. Reading by pupils is silent and independent in intensive reading, whereas in extensive reading, reading by pupils is allowed and controlled by the teacher. There is minimum help by the teacher in intensive reading, whereas in extensive reading, the help by the teacher is maximum. The non-detailed lesson is essentially a place for no teaching or minimum of teaching. The detailed reading lesson, intensive reading, is essentially a place for careful teaching. Good readers operate cognitively at 4 highly interrelated and overlapping levels of meaning. They are literal meaning, interpretative meaning, critical meaning and creative meaning. Literal comprehension involves the reader in understanding the information stated directly in the text. He or she should be able to state exactly what the passage is saying. The reader does not have to dig too deeply to get at it. In interpretative level, the reader must be able to read between the lines to recognize the ideas and information that are not directly stated in the text. The reader must make inferences. Critical reading requires making judgments with regards to a text. It also includes giving reasons for the judgment, commenting on the views expressed in the passage and the appropriateness and effectiveness of the treatments of these ideas. Creative reading calls for the generation of new ideas, insights, applications and approaches. It requires invention, prediction and use of imagination. The skills and strategies of reading may be stated broadly as follows. Skills involving flexibility of technique has variations in reading rate, skimming, scanning and study reading, etc. Skills of using non-textual information is information that is strictly not part of the text. Reference apparatus, graphic conventions, illustrations and diagrams are a part of it. Word attack skills are recognizing the letters of the alphabet and reading groups of letters as words, understanding the meaning of words by using morphology, contextual clues or a dictionary. Text attack skills are interpreting the text as a whole using all the clues available, including cohesion and rhetorical structure. Now, let us look at certain strategies that we can use to improve our reading skill. There are some important tips given here. Read at a time you are awake and alert. Many people read more quickly in the morning than in the afternoon. Don't put off reading until late at night or when you are feeling drowsy. Select a quiet place for reading, such as in a library. Make sure the lighting is adequate. Remove any distractions such as the radio or television. Think about your reading before you begin. For example, if you are reading a textbook chapter, think about why this chapter was assigned and what you expect to learn. If you are reading a novel, read the title, author's name and inside or back cover. Pause regularly, such as at every textbook section or chapter of a novel, to remind yourself what just happened. If you have trouble recalling the basics of the information or plot, stop to check your comprehension at every page or every few pages. Avoid highlighting. Instead, write questions or comments in the margins. Try to actively engage with the material, identifying what you agree or disagree with instead of passively absorbing the information. Underlining the main ideas might improve your comprehension, but don't underline too much. Push yourself to read faster. This might temporarily decrease your comprehension speed, but over time it will improve your speed and your comprehension too. Adjust the reading speed to fit your material. For example, you might need to read a contract at work very carefully and very slowly, while you could quickly skim a textbook chapter to review or read a leisure novel at a fast pace. Read every day for at least 20 minutes. Your reading skills won't improve unless you practice. Time your reading speed. Set a timer for 2 minutes, for example, and read until the timer stops. Write down your time, what you were reading and how many pages you read in 2 minutes. Quiet your inner reading voice. Read quickly enough to silence the voice that reads along with you. Read so quickly you cannot catch every word. Read words in chunks. Break text into 2-word chunks to start. Increase the size of the word chunks as your speed increases. Use your fingertip to follow text. Follow the text as you read it to prevent rereading content and to help keep your reading voice silent. Let us sum up what we have read, what we have learned. Reading is purposeful, selective and text-based. Reading, there are various types of reading. One is loud reading, silent reading, intensive reading and extensive reading. We have seen the techniques of reading, that is skimming and scanning. We have seen the various competencies that are required for reading, the linguistic competency, the discourse competency. We have seen certain strategies that will help to improve our reading speed. We have also seen the advantages and disadvantages of various types of reading. So, here we end up with this module, that is reading skill. So, happy reading all of you. Thank you.